Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. This is actually our last live show before Christmas, so I got Christmas lights behind me back here in the green color. Uh, Merry Christmas, everybody. We got a lot going
That's
on
all you
tonight.
get.
Yeah, that's it. We got basketball to talk about. Then we're going to break down early signing day, which I put out a poll on X. I keep wanting to say Twitter, but on X of is early signing day now the primary national signing day? And the votes were 98% yes, it is. And I know I certainly agree with you. I'm pretty sure Rustin does too. Um, we're going to talk about early signing and we're going to break it down into transfers and high school and JUCO signings. And so Rustin's going to give us a little breakdown of each guy. And then we're going to go through our top three freshman signees who could impact the 2024 season. And then we have a humorous little, not humorous, it's kind of interesting way to end the show about Florida State. So that's our show for this evening. So let's get right into it. The basketball team, Vol Hoops, beats Tarleton State. Now, if you watch our show, then you saw last time we were live, we mentioned this game, and Rustin pretty much said exactly what was going to happen. So kudos to you. I'm willing to give credit where credit's due, and he pretty much nailed how that game was going to go down. So kudos to you, man. What'd you take away from that game this evening?
Tarleton is what I kind of told everybody to watch for. They're a very physical, not overly skilled team, but extremely physical. Again, they're transitioning into Division One. They've got some Texas oil money behind them. If you look at their entire athletic department, all their teams are being weirdly successful, and it's because they've got some dollars behind them that are buying players that can compete. So I mean, they're not going to be a doormat by any stretch of the imagination. And even Steve Hamer tonight during that broadcast said this team could give some people some issues in March. Like they're just scrappy enough and they're just athletic enough. If they got hot one weekend, they could actually be a problem. Um, you know, from a Tennessee perspective, I thought we played wildly uninspired. I thought we looked like we could not care less that Tarleton State was on the court and we were ready for Christmas. Um, you know, people were complaining about all kinds of things during the first half and during the second half. And I kept seeing something about bad offense, and I'm like, they're getting wide open shots almost every possession, and they're not hitting anything. That's not bad offense. That's just an off night with an uninspired group of players. And it wasn't really until Jordan Gainey and Josiah Jordan James basically said, we're just going to attack the basket until we get to the free throw line and end this thing, that we really started putting it away. But, I mean, horrible shooting night, wide open look after wide open look, and just couldn't put it in the basket.
And to that point, Tarleton State couldn't really put it in the basket in the first half either. Those were like the first 10 minutes of the game. They had numerous wide open looks and just could not hit anything.
Yeah. Well, nobody scored in the first 4 minutes of the second half. that was an awful 4 minutes of basketball.
So I mean, unfortunately, like you said, it wasn't the prettiest game in the world. Once again, we saw a little bit, not as much of careless, passes and stuff, not taking care of the ball, not as much as we saw in the last game, but there was still a little bit of that. For example, there was one pass in particular I can think of where Zakai cut down the middle of the lane and there was trying to make a bounce pass to him. I can't remember who made the pass, but it just wasn't, he had no chance of getting to him. Sure enough, Tarleton State intercepted it, took it in there in the court. But I will say they got a win, so that's good. It wasn't, like Rustin said, a very inspired win, but it was a win nonetheless. And so at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Now they have a week and a half off until the day after the Vols football team plays. So they will play again on January the 2nd, and they play Norfolk State on January the 2nd. You can't play uninspired against Norfolk State because it's going to bite you in the rear if you play uninspired against them. That is a perennial tournament team, so they need to come out and have a good showing against Norfolk State. Who was your player of the game?
Well, Josiah, I'll tell you right now, Josiah is playing about as well as anybody on that roster, and he went for a double double, and he just played really well the whole game. Like it wasn't anything overly exceptional. It was just solid, and he did all the little things. In a night when people just weren't playing very well, to go for a double double, I think that's all you need to hear for a player of the game.
That was exactly my pick as well. He when he got the double double, there was still like 7 minutes left in the game or
Yeah,
something
it
like
was
that.
early.
8 minutes. I mean, like it was really impressive. So that was my player of the game as well. I didn't really have a play of the game. There's one that I was like, okay, I guess that's it because there weren't that many great ones. So I'll let you go first on that too, and then that way, if you have one that's better than mine, I'll just use yours.
Well, I'll take with 4 minutes left. Jordan Gainey drove the right side of the lane. It was an 8-point game. He went up, took an off balance shot, really pretty shot with two guys in his face, and banked it in off the glass to make it a 10-point game. And after that, it was pretty much over. They never really threatened again. So great shot by him. Great contested shot. It was nice to see him kind of get back on track tonight. He was 4 of 6 from the field. He needed that. He needed a night where he had some positive things happen.
And I think the coaching staff recognized that too, which was why they left him in so long. Totally agree. So my play of the game came in the first half. Zakai step back 3. He crossed over, step back behind the line. Dude, I don't even know if he fell down or what, but he was not in the same zip code by the time he took the shot. Actually, Zakai bobbled the ball, was able to regain possession of it, and then hit the shot. So that was my play of the game. If he hadn't bobbled it, it probably would have been smoother, but the fact that he bobbled it showed how much space he had to shoot. So kudos to him for that. That was my play of the game. Let's see some of the folks chiming in here. Let's see. Eric, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said, "What's up, Vol Bros?" Eric was watching Vol Quest as well, so I'm glad you're with us, Eric. Jeff, welcome, Jeff. Good to have you, buddy. He said, "Hey guys, really glad you're having a show tonight. I really need it from my Vol Bros to get my mind off some other things." Well, I'm sorry about that, man, and I'm glad we're here to talk about some Vol football and basketball with you. Zach, what's up, buddy? He said, "I'm on the road heading to Wingstop, but I'm here via." That's what I'm talking about. Can't go wrong with some wings. That's good. That's a good choice. Jeff said Triple J has played solid all year long. He's easily been the most consistent. Easily, I agree. Easily the most consistent player on their team. Well, in case no one has heard, the last 24 hours, or really 30, almost 48 hours now, have been pretty eventful for the Tennessee Vols. There's been a lot of Jeff said about that play of the game. He said Zakai lost it and said, "Look what I found," and then still made the shot anyway. So that was impressive. A lot of times when people lose control of the ball like that, they miss the shot, but he didn't. Let's see. Shannon, welcome. He said, "Howdy Vols." Okay, now hang on. I got to know because we have somebody named Kelly who joins us all the time. Kelly is a guy. Shannon, I think I don't want to assume here, but I think you're male based on what you say and our like howdy Vol Bros. I think that. So you gotta confirm because we know a Shannon. We used to work with a Shannon who was a lady, and I want to call you by if you're a guy, I want to say he. So can you let us know in the comments because I keep saying he, and then I'm like, well, what if it's a lady? Then I'm might be insulting her. So, it's a guy. There you go. Awesome. Appreciate it. I thought so. All right. Good call.
You were just hoping we might be able to reduce that male to female ratio on our analytics. But nope.
Shannon, good to have you, man. Good to have you. He said, "Howdy, Vol Bros. Good day on Rocky Top." I agree with that, especially based on what we're about to talk about with the wide receiver. And I like how Tarleton came at us hard and we worked through it. SEC teams are going to come hard at us every game. Go Big Orange. I agree 100%. Tarleton State, man, they knew they didn't have anything to lose. They weren't expected to win that game, and so they were like, "We're going to give it our best and give it a if we walk out of TBA with a with a win, that just looks really good for us. So
But
kudos to them.
that's not a bad team. They're 8-4,
agree.
and one of their wins is over Stephen F. Austin, who's a perennial March team. I mean that group, they're not skilled, but they can play.
Okay, so that cracks me up. That cracks me up that one of their wins is over Stephen F. Austin, because their logo, it's like they stole Stephen F.
Oh, yeah.
Austin's logo and just changed the letters to a T.
Well,
It
and
cracked me up.
I mean, it's pretty bold to be Tarleton State, and knowing where you are on the totem pole in universities in the state of Texas, and to call yourself the Texans, like you're just going to claim the state, like I don't care about UT, we're the Texans.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little football, because it has been a very important 2 days on Rocky Top. Major mixed reactions about this class, by the way. A whole lot of varying opinions, a whole lot of shocking, I know, from Vol Nation, but we're typically an opinionated group. Well, many different opinions about this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the transfers and the high school and JUCO signings. So we'll start with the transfers. We're going to do alphabetical order. Just today, actually this afternoon, Tennessee arguably got their most important transfer yet. I might totally butcher his name. I hope I don't, but I'm going to try. Shannon made a yeah, buddy. He said, "What about that receiver room now?" That's exactly right. Chris Brazel. I'm assuming I'm saying his name correctly.
You are.
Rustin, tell us about Chris Brazel.
6'5" wide receiver, freshman All-American. He was a big-time possession guy for Tulane, had over 700 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. Big physical receiver. I mean, honestly, I hope it's a pro all the way around. But there is kind of the lingering idea of, was this a signing in case Brew is gone?
You had to go and put a damper on it for us.
because technically he and Brew play the same position. Now, Brazel is versatile enough, he could slide over and play the X where Ramel Keaton was. So, I tell you, if you can get Dante Thornton and, get him motivated, get him running well, get Chaz Nimrod running well, get Squirrel running well out of the slots, and have Brew and Brazel opposite each other, both at 6'5", both big physical receivers, you can make some hay with that. That's got a lot of potential.
That, just like Jeff said, that wide receiver room just got way better and much deeper, actually. And that impacted my decision for later in the show when we talk about our top 3 freshman signees who can make an impact.
Yeah.
The transfer today actually impacted my decision on that. So let's see. Jeff said, "I love this class with the transfers." Absolutely.
I think the one thing people have to recognize too is he was freshman All-American because he had over 700 yards receiving. What that really says is the kid catches the ball. Like, in order to get over 700 yards receiving, you're catching a lot of targets. So what does it say about him as a player that Tulane was targeting him enough for him to get over 700 yards receiving? I mean, that, as a true freshman, like,
absolutely,
the kid's a player.
And Tulane's good. And like, he was a big reason why they were good. And now he's in orange, and that's a good thing. Shannon said, "Let the horses run." Absolutely, man. Throw it deep. Lewis, welcome, Lewis. Good to have you. Said Brazel just committed from portal. Receiving core just got taller. They sure did. Zach said, "Let me tell you now, Dante Thornton Jr. is going to have a revenge year." Man, I hope so, because he was just starting to play really well, and then he got injured this year. Shannon said Brazel is also hard to tackle.
Yeah, he is. Jason, he is weirdly slippery for somebody 6'5". Like he is very shifty.
Well, Jason Swain was super excited about it this afternoon. He said 6'5" with feet too, because he can run. So he was like, "Man, that's good stuff." Lewis said Tennessee needs Brew to recover and have a strong season if they want to get back to 40 points a game. They also need, they need, and
They also need a running back or two to step up and be good secondary options.
Yep, for sure. I agree. If Nico can distribute, they're going to be all right. But it is going to be imperative that the offensive line protect Nico, because if they don't, he, Lord forbid, he gets injured, we are in a massive hole at that point. So it is imperative that he gets protected. Let's see. Carl said, "Hey, welcome, Carl. Good to have you, buddy." He said, "Would love to see some 4 wide out packages." Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I totally agree. Everyone wants to eat. Maybe they'll swap out packages. Totally agree. Absolutely. Shannon said, "I guarantee every coach on our schedule next year said, 'Oh crap.'" Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
The one luxury they do have is, Holden Stace is here now, but Ethan Davis is right there also. And in moments when they go with Ethan Davis at tight end, it's like having 4 wide receivers on the field. He's going to remind a lot of people of Kyle Pitts.
So Zach said, "What do you mean if Nico will contribute?" I agree, he will. I said Nico has to distribute the ball. That's all he's got to do. He's just got to distribute it. Zach's getting some wings right now, so he might have been ordering, and you just didn't hear me say that. But he's just, he's got to distribute it, and if he does, they're going to be okay. Alpha Man 06, hey, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said, what are your times and days you're on? I keep missing you live. Well, I'm glad you caught us live this time. That's good. Normally it's Thursdays and Sundays. Normally, however, at 9:00 Eastern. However, normally, the next 2 weeks are going to be a little bit different because we got Christmas and New Year and that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about our schedule at the end. I know for sure we'll probably end up going live on the Wednesday, January 3rd, because it'll be the day after the day after the football game and the day after the basketball game. So we'll probably go live that day for sure. Let's see. Lewis said Selden's going to have a breakout season. We'll probably reach 700 to 800 yards.
I hope
that'd be wonderful. Hey, sign me up. Absolutely. Zach said 15-0, baby. Let's run it back to 98. You're the man, Zach. I love you, man. Let's see. Lewis said linebacker position will have the most talent and depth in many years. That's a fair assessment, especially with Edwin Spillman signing today. That adds another really good player back there. So I think that's fair. Resting our second transfer going alphabetically is Jermon McCoy from Oregon State. Tell us something about Jermon.
Yeah, he's my favorite. So played in 12 games as a freshman at Oregon State on a very good Oregon State defense. Ended up starting 5, played his way into a starting role, finished the year with 31 tackles, 2 interceptions. But if you watch his tape, what I love about him is he plays a lot of man and zone, and he does both well. Young corners in college typically do one or the other. It's rare to find one that can do both. And so I hope that with him and Gabe Judy Lawley out there on islands, that they're planning to play a lot more man with the two of them. I think that helps everybody. But I'm really excited to watch him play. Kid likes to strike people, plays very physical. He's got a skill set that is very missing in that secondary.
Zach, I love what Zach just said. He said there'll be 2 McCoys on the roster. Zach's calling it Bruce coming back. I love it, Zach. I hope you're right, man. I really do hope you're right. I hope there are 2 McCoys on that roster. That'd be great. Carl. You just asked a really good question, man. Oh boy. All right. So Carl said, do you think the receiving core has patience, or will some jump in the portal? Ooh, that is a fantastic question.
I think most of them have patience, but the reality is at least one in the upcoming year is going to find out he's going to be the odd man out.
Yep.
So I think you can probably pick as games happen and as players start rotating in and out. I think it'll be pretty obvious to look at the sideline and identify who's the one that's going to transfer.
Because let's just take a survey of this position group that Carl is mentioning here, because he's right. He's exactly right. Let's say Brew comes back. All right, so you got Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, Dante Thornton, Chris Brazell, Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, Nathan Leacock, Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley. That's 9 right there. All of whom are guys who want to be on the field and feel like they deserve to be on the field.
And all are good enough to be on the field.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to say that all those guys are going to stay. It's just, so we'll see. We will see. That is an excellent question. Excellent question. You got 9 guys for 3 spots who can on the field. Maybe if they go 4 wide, then you can sneak an extra guy on there. But
even then, you got Ethan Davis, and I'm telling you, when that kid gets his opportunity, he's a difference maker, and he is going to do some things that haven't been done at tight end at Tennessee. Like he is not a typical tight end.
Lewis said Nathan Leacock needs to get some touches, or he could find playing time elsewhere. I agree. Jeff said, I think Ethan Davis has potential to be the best tight end the Vols have ever had, but can he stay healthy is the question. And he needs to stay healthy, no doubt, because he hadn't been healthy since he's been here hardly. But that's a great question. Zach said his starting 4 receivers, in his opinion, would be Brew, Mike Matthews, Dante Thornton, and Squirrel White. Woo!
Zach, I hate to break it to you, but there is literally 0 chance that Chris Brazell is not starting. Like, he didn't leave Tulane, and he didn't leave being a freshman All-American getting 700 yards to come sit on the bench.
Yeah. Shannon said, we'll weed them out and plant new seed. Well, I think that's going to happen, actually. Carl said that's why I was hoping they would rotate receiver groups. Yeah. I mean, I get it, man. I totally get it. Let's see. So we had a couple other comments come through before we move on to the next person. Shannon said, I'm still hopeful for Seaton. That is the number 1 offensive tackle in the country that he's referring to. Alpha Man 06 said, I don't think Seaton would be great for our culture in the locker room. He reminds me of a couple guys that I played and that I hated in the locker room. Let's see. So here's my opinion on that. Something's not right. There's something going on there. I don't know what it is, but either he has an advisor who is seeking out money for himself or something. I don't know what's going on, but there is something is not normal there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but something's not normal. Zach said he wants to see Brazell play first before he say he can start in SEC.
It's called YouTube. Pull it up.
Lewis said Dylan Sampson will have at least 10 touchdowns. I agree with that. I think that is a safe estimate. I agree. Let's see. Holden Stays, tied in from Notre Dame transfer. Tell us about Holden, Rustin.
So I am sure that there is something in Josh Heupel's overall offensive philosophy that requires that he always have a big body tight end. But dadgummit, when you've got a receiving room like that, why do we have to have a big body tight end? Let's just go 4 wide and air the freaking thing out. Like it drives me nuts. But for some reason, we just have to have a big tight end. Holden Stays is a good player. He's played in high level games. I mean, he had multiple receiving yards, multiple games at Notre Dame last year, playing in the big stage. I mean, it's Notre Dame. He played in a lot of high level games. So he's going to come in. He's going to probably start right away. He's going to contribute. But the reality is, I would so much rather see 4 dudes out there flying around wreaking havoc than the one clunker trying to run curls and hitches.
Ricky said, no basketball talk. We did, Ricky. We talked about the basketball game for about the first 10 minutes or so. And then we have a whole lot of early signees that we're going to talk about too. So we did. I wonder, Ricky, were you there tonight? I'd be curious to know if Ricky was there. He's a frequenter of TBA. So we'll see if he was there. Carl said, please hit the like button, y'all. I totally agree with Carl. It's a great point. Yep, I figured he was there. So Ricky was there. That's awesome, Ricky. We
spent as much time talking about it as the Vols did preparing for it, apparently.
He corrected me. He said Food City Center. I think Ricky is every bit as much of a fan of Food City Center as we are. So that was a good one. Ricky, we have a question for you. Was the atmosphere somewhat deflated in there tonight? Because it seemed as though the team played a little deflated at times. So our question is, was the atmosphere deflated in there as well? Let's see. Oh, Zach said Brazel played mid-level talent. That's true. That's a good point.
Go look at his offer list.
That's the thing that's most exciting about Brazel. Kirby Smart wanted Brazel. Lane Kiffin wanted Brazel. Pretty much every team in America.
I was about to say the only top 25 school that didn't offer was Alabama. Literally every other one did. USC, Penn State, Michigan, Ole Miss, LSU, Florida, Georgia. I mean,
yeah, that's not bad.
Clemson, Florida State. Like everybody wanted that kid.
Ricky said that the atmosphere, that's exactly what it was like. He said no students, early tip-off, bad traffic, tons of empty seats. Yep, I can imagine. Shannon said 38 schools offered Brazel. Carl said Brazel played against Ole Miss. That'll be good. We should go watch that. We should go watch that game. Ricky said just a bad shooting tonight. Yeah, yep. Agreed. Absolutely. On both sides, really, both teams. Were they using that fancy evolution ball that that was the hot topic in the San Antonio game? Shannon, you're stealing some of my thunder about my top freshman signees. He said there's already chatter about the early enrollees already impressing in practice. That's exactly right. One in particular. So from the Chattanooga area, which is where we're from. So that, looking forward to talking about him. Carl said maybe they want stays for chipping and blocking. That's exactly why they want him, and Jeff hit it as well. He wants tight end instead of 4 wide for the run. That is exactly right.
Yeah, I was an offensive coordinator for 11 years. I know why they want him. I just don't want him. I don't want any tight end out there. I want 4 dudes who can fly around and make things happen to spread and stretch the field. So now Dylan Sampson has even more running lanes. Let's go back to the old air raid 3 and 5 foot splits and get the linemen as wide as humanly possible. So the defense has to spread out and play every gap. I don't want some clunker. We already have 5 linemen. We don't need another one. I don't want some clunker out there running around, slowing the pace down. Let's go. Let's get out and fly around.
Well, that's why Ethan Davis really needs to get better at blocking.
Exactly.
He can be the dude that's the other one. Ricky, what in the world, man? Ricky was Joe Milton's biggest fan. And Ricky still, it's over now, Ricky. Like Joe, he's not going to be there next year. So,
Ricky, just for you, I hope that the Citrus Bowl is an absolute slobber knocker and Joe plays every single snap.
Yeah. Ricky and Mr. Jones, those two are the biggest Joe Milton fans every week on our show. Zach said he's planning on going to a game. That's what I'm talking about. Zach said he's going to root for Brazil since he's wearing orange. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Well, our last transfer that would be qualify as a transfer is Jacoby Thomas, defensive back from Middle Tennessee State University. Rustin, tell us about Jacoby.
Like that kid too. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Could play the star, could play one of the corner spots. Technically could kind of maybe play safety, but he's a little undersized for that. He got away with it at MTSU, although his best game of the year at MTSU was against Alabama. So, I'm sure that was the video that stood out to coaches when they watched that back and were like, okay. This kid's playing against the best of the best and he's holding his own. So, he's undersized to play safety, but who knows? Maybe they'll walk him down to the star and he could thrive there. But he's got a big ceiling. That kid plays crazy hard. He likes to hit. He's a striker who doesn't miss tackles. I like that kid. I think he's going to be a big help.
And you want a safety who doesn't mind hitting people. That's what you need right there. Let's see. Jeff said, I know, but it's his philosophy, and supposedly that's rule number 1 in coaching. Develop a philosophy and don't deviate. Not saying I agree with it. Ricky said, I'm keeping receipts for Nico. Come on, man. Oh, my goodness. Oh, man. Let's see. Zach said, I go to more baseball games than anything. Well, that's a good time to be a Vols baseball fan. Lewis said if Bruce stays, then Tennessee will slowly work him into this rotation in the second half of the year.
He'll be ready to go.
He'll be ready. Yeah.
He's had plenty of
time. Let's see. Eric said Joe better not get every snap in the Citrus Bowl. Nico needs some meaningful snaps in the bowl game. If not, I'll be a little upset. Yeah, I think Rustin would too. We just want to see it for Ricky. That's all.
Yeah. I think they'll probably split the game and go a half each. But
for if Ricky's Joe sake, plays at all.
Yeah. What's going to be really funny is if play 1, Nico goes out there and tweaks an ankle and he's done for the day. Nothing serious, just enough to take him to the sideline for the rest of the game, and Joe has to play the whole game.
You know what was weird today? This was weird today. Jalen Wright got invited to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, that was the rule they changed last year where they allowed anybody who declared for the draft to be eligible for the Senior Bowl, even if they're not seniors, which makes no sense. If that's what it's going to be, then stop calling it the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, but call it the Reese's Bowl because it's already the Reese's Senior Bowl. Just call it the Reese's Bowl. I was like, what in the world? When I saw that video, I was like, well, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
That was weird. That was weird. Zach. Now, okay. Hey, I'm all for the 15-0, buddy. Let's do it. But even this one, I don't know if this can happen. He said Brew McCoy or Dante Thornton will win the Bolitnikoff Award. I mean, if Dante just does what he's supposed to do and take off running and outrun everybody and turns into the next Jalen Hyatt, sure, that could happen. Unfortunately, we just didn't see that any this year. I hope it changes, though. Robert said, I heard today that Joe may not play in the bowl game. Yeah, he might not. We don't know yet. I mean, several people have already opted out. Jalen Wright's not playing in it. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Austin Price this past week made it pretty clear that coaches have said it's Joe's decision to make. If Joe wants to play, Joe's going to play. If he doesn't want to play and get ready for the Senior Bowl in the draft, then he can do that too. It's going to be his call.
Ricky said he'll have a sore arm. Trying to get ready for the draft. That's what he's going to be doing. We'll see. Well, Eric said Chris Brazell may win the Bolitnikoff. That's exactly right. That's what I'm talking about. Chris Brazell, Dante Thornton, same height, 6'5", same height. So if Brew McCoy comes back and those three dudes are on the field at the same time, Brew's 6'3", 6'4"?
He's definitely he's a solid 6'4".
So you'd have 6'4", 6'5", 6'5". Yeah, have fun with that if you're a
And
defensive
squirrel.
coordinator. And squirrel, yeah. So have fun with that if you're a defensive coordinator. 6'4", 6'5", 6'5", spread across the field, and all of them can run, and Bruce can catch anything in the same zip code as him. I mean, that's a smorgasbord right there. Carl said Jalen Wright can self-identify as a senior now. That's exactly right. Zach said Nico wins the Heisman. I love you, Zach. So we're going, Zach. I hope you're right, dude. Zach said we're going to go 15-0. Nico's winning the Heisman, and one of our receivers is winning the Blitnikoff. That would literally be the single greatest year in the history of Tennessee football. That would be absolutely incredible. And if we go, now let's figure this out. If to go undefeated next year to win it all, you would have to be 12-0 going into the SEC championship game, 13-0 after that. You would have a first round bye, so then you'd have to win the round of 8, the round of 4, and the round in the championship. So what is that? 16-0. You have to be 16-0 next year. Is that right?
Yep.
There you go. Let's see, Dexter, good to have you, buddy. Good to have you with us. He said he's glad for Joe. Absolutely. Going to the Senior Bowl. Absolutely. Shannon said, go, Joe. You've had 6 years to build your resume, and the scouts know what they know. Thank you, and blessings be upon you. I agree, but it's his choice for sure to play in the game or not. Eric is exactly right. He said our Vols turned into wide receiver year right before our eyes. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Carl said he thinks Joe will play, try to improve his draft status. I mean, listen, if there was a game that could potentially improve his draft status, Iowa has a fantastic defense, but they have a terrible offense. So we know that Tennessee's going to have the ball plenty of times. That's a lot of opportunities to throw the ball deep down the field for Joe. Who knows? Ricky said you have to go 16-0 in honor of Peyton Manning. Let's see. Zach said, who's your starting 4 wide receivers? Well, let's come back to that. Zach, he said, mark it December 21st, 16-0. I've spoken. So let it be written. So let it be done. Let's go to our signees from junior college and high school,
because that's a long list.
It is a very long list. So we'll go a little bit quicker through this one for sure.
Yeah.
It's going alphabetically. We start with Max Anderson. Rustin, tell us about Max.
Yeah, Max has great size and strength. He's SEC ready right now as far as physicality. Depending on how things shake out at some positions, it's possible he might even make the 2 deep at guard as a freshman. I would not say of all of the freshmen he's the most ready, but just because of the way numbers might shake out, he might have an opportunity, especially with Addison Nichols transferring. He might have an opportunity to get on the 2 deep.
In-state kid, Caleb Beasley. Tell us about Caleb.
Yeah, the number 1 player in the state of Tennessee. Physical freak, freak athlete. He has incredible speed. They love his length. He absolutely will make the 2 deep in the secondary. A lot of people aren't talking about him because Boo Carter gets a lot of the hype, but the reality is Caleb Beasley is a kid that is incredibly versatile. He can play literally every defensive back position. And he's got the speed to play corner. He's got the length to play corner, but he's got the tackling ability and the IQ to play safety. He could play the star. He's a really versatile kid that they're going to love. And I would not be surprised at all to see him get early playing time.
Zach said, we're getting another Beasley. We sure are. Caleb, absolutely. And it's Aaron's younger brother, right? Like they're brothers. Right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Let's see. Jordan Burns.
Yeah, Jordan's a kid they're probably going to redshirt and develop. He was actually highly rated out of high school. He was the number 10 inside linebacker nationally. But the reality is, as one of the people on the quotes or comments said earlier, we're really, really deep at linebacker now. So he'll probably redshirt and develop. He could stand to add a little mass. Crazy smart kid coming out of Pace Academy in Atlanta. Really physical kid, loves to hit. And I think he's a kid that 2-3 years down the road with, a college strength program, he's going to end up being a big time contributor, but he's not going to need to this year.
So somebody that everybody will know by name, probably within the next couple months, Boo Carter. Tell us about Boo, another in-state kid.
I think Boo's probably a day one starter, but probably not at the position everybody's expecting me to say. Boo has elite speed, elite athleticism. He's going to be the returning punts or returning kicks. He's too explosive with the ball. They will want to get him in space and let him be a player. I think he'll absolutely start for or compete for a starting job at safety. I'm not sure we want him to start at safety. There's an old adage in college football: for every freshman you start, you can almost be guaranteed a loss. So, there's a lot he needs to learn to play safety at an SEC level. He has really, over the years, gotten away with just being the best player on the field. And, sometimes when you're the best player on the field, you can make decisions and gamble on plays that at an SEC level, you're going to get beat. So he needs to learn a little bit more about how to play safety before we just say, oh, he's an absolute starter. But absolutely put him at punt return, put him at kick return, let him go be a baller. He's electric.
Absolutely. Because he also played running back in high school. And if you watch any highlights of him, you can't not see his crazy skill returning punts. Zach has already established the best emoji usage for any player on this list. The ghost and then Carter. Boo Carter starts day one. I love it. That's great, man. Well played. Let's see. Papa J said, any news on Brew? Not yet. Unfortunately, not yet. I'm sure he's still feeling out his draft grades and seeing, what's going on. But unfortunately, we haven't heard anything yet. Lewis said, Tennessee only needs 10 points to beat Iowa. And Zach said they only need 6.
Yeah, I was about to say, it may just be 7. May not have to score twice.
Yeah. Iowa, not known as an offensive juggernaut, not known for that for sure. So Lewis and Zach are both exactly right there. Let's see here. Our next person going alphabetically, and I might totally butcher this name, and if I do, I sincerely apologize, but Idris Farouk.
Oh, that's right. So Idris is actually originally from Atlanta. This past year, he played at a prep school. The name's escaping me, but up in Maryland. And so he used to be at Milton High School in Atlanta, which is apparently DBU or DB High. The entire secondary has signed in the SEC, including 2 coming to Tennessee in the future. So Idris is a really physical safety. I got the opportunity to see him play multiple times in high school live. He is extremely physical. He has great instincts. He flies around. He's probably, just physically a little undersized right now to play safety in the SEC. So the good news is we probably don't need him this upcoming year. And so he's a kid they'll probably redshirt, put some mass on, teach him how to play at the SEC level. But he's a kid that's absolutely going to help down the road. It won't be this year, but in the next few years, he's a kid that will absolutely push for a starting job.
Carl said he would love to see what they'll achieve with the Okoye kid. No experience, but physical specimen. He is in the tight end room. That's exactly right. Another freshman signee from in-state kid from Chattanooga, Carson Gentle.
Yeah. Carson's going to remind everybody of Will Overstreet. He's going to be a big physical defensive end that can slide inside from time to time if he needs to, once he puts some more mass on. He's got a crazy high motor. He plays really hard all the time. Really smart kid, has a really high IQ. Started both ways at Macaulay this year and was a lot of times as a tight end the best receiver on the field. So he's got great feet. People are going to love Carson Gentle. The nice thing is he's out of position. We don't need him this year. So he can go get in the weight room. He can redshirt. He can develop for the future. But he's absolutely a guy in 2 or 3 years everybody's going to be talking about. This is a really good signing.
Tri-Cities Vol, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said, great show, guys. Been out just tuning in. If y'all talked about what bowl plan will be with Nico. We've kind of mentioned it. There's just no word yet. I'm assuming only the people in the building in Anderson Training Facility know, but Joe it's up to him if he wants to play or not. If he wants to, he's going to, and if he doesn't want to, then he won't, and it'll be Nico's turn. But it's definitely Joe's call for now, and so everybody's just kind of waiting to hear what Joe decides. That's a great question. Papa J said, I can't wait to see our wide receiver group and our tight ends this year with our offensive line back. I agree. They need to get a left guard out of the transfer portal if possible. But yes, got to be super excited that 4 of the 5 are returning. Got to be 4 of the 5 starters are returning, and Andre Carrick is too. But got to be excited with what's going on there for sure. All right, another in-state kid. Well, no, I skipped one. Hang on, we'll come back to him in a second. Yeah. Gage Ginther is our next one. Definitely not in-state with him.
Yeah, of all the offensive linemen, Gage is actually the one I'm most excited about. He is weirdly versatile. He has great size. He has great explosion, weird quickness for a guy his size. He was the top player in the state of Colorado. A lot of big time programs wanted him. Tennessee won a huge recruiting battle. We talked about it last time. If you want to know how good a kid is, just look at who his offers are from. And, when you talk about Wisconsin, Southern Cal, UCLA, Penn State, Oregon, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Missouri, Colorado, this is a kid that a lot of big time programs wanted and felt like could come in and play literally all 5 offensive line positions. And that's not an over exaggeration. Tennessee has said that about him. They love his versatility, and they plan to teach him all 5 offensive line positions. So, it's hard to find a kid that's a rare combination of size and quickness who can play all 5 offensive line spots. So that's a big signing right there. And I would not be surprised at all if we hear Gage Ginther's name called quite a bit as a freshman.
All right. So another in-state kid from Bradley Central High School, Marcus Gorey.
Yeah, Marcus is another kid. We've signed a lot of kids in technically positions of need that maybe won't end up being positions of need. Marcus is a versatile kid. He's dynamic. He's a good combination of size and speed, so he can play corner or safety. I'm sure they would prefer to redshirt him this year, just to beef him up a little bit. He needs to add a little mass. But, who knows? He's a very explosive kid. He could come in and beat out some of the other guys in this freshman class, and somebody we're not expecting to redshirt may get redshirted to get Marcus on the field. If Marcus does win time on the field as a freshman, I'm sure a lot of it's going to be for special teams purposes, because he is versatile and he is crazy fast. And so there's things he can bring to the table in special teams that could be really effective.
Very similar body type and speed wise to Emmanuel Mosley.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how he gets used. One of the more recent names that we've heard, and until Chris Brazell and Jermon McCoy committed, our most recent commitment, Cole Harrison. Who tells about Cole?
Yeah, tall, athletic kid, really good route runner, absolute red shirt. He will not play this upcoming year because he needs to gain a lot of weight. He is not ready for SEC contact. He will be. I think down the road he's going to be a good player for him, but it's going to take some time. He's definitely a red shirt and develop kind of kid.
The next person going alphabetically here is someone who, if you were in the same room as him, Don't think you'd miss him. Jeremiah's Hurd.
Yeah, he's massive. He's 6'8", 308. He's definitely a development kid. They'll probably redshirt him and bring him along because he's only played football for 2 years. But the reason he became such a signing prospect was he finally came to his senses and realized basketball was not in his future. He has played basketball his entire career, so he's got good feet, he's got good speed, and at 6'8", 308, if you can find a guy that big with good speed and good feet, you can turn him into one heck of an offensive lineman. So I think he's a kid they stash for a couple of years, teach him how to play, let him, get good reps in practice against good talent. And down the road, I think he's one that's going to probably be a pretty big contributor. No pun intended.
So the next kid is a very interesting signee, Peyton Lewis. Why don't you tell us about Peyton, and then I'll give my thoughts on him.
So Peyton has elite speed. He's a quick burst kid. He's got good size, actually kind of abnormal size for his speed. He's a really big, strong runner. I hope the rest of the running back room develops in such a way that Peyton gets to redshirt. That would be the absolute best thing, is if Peyton gets to redshirt, because that means that all of our current running backs have continued to develop and we don't have to throw Peyton out there as a freshman. If Peyton is playing as a freshman, then I would say we probably have one or two running backs entering the portal at the end of the year.
No doubt.
And so, I think for the overall health of the locker room, and for, honestly, if we want our coaches to be known as guys who really do develop, then hopefully the rest of the room has developed to the point that Peyton redshirts, and that would be the best situation possible.
So this, I think, the reason why there's really just one running back in this class is because of what happened last year. We signed 3 running backs last year. And really, I think we got deceived this year because we never saw Deshaun Bishop step on the field this year because he got injured during the beginning of training camp, fall camp, and so he redshirted the year. So the 3 guys, obviously we know Dylan Sampson's going to be the primary back, obviously. After him, you've got Cam Seldon, tremendous weapon. You got Khalifa Keith, who didn't look that great this year. But you've also got Deshaun Bishop coming back. And then you've got Peyton Lewis. So, honestly, of the 3 previously freshmen, now second-year guys, and Cam Seldon, Khalifa Keith, and Deshaun Bishop, the guy who was getting the most attention in spring practice last year was Deshaun Bishop. He was the guy that coaches and players alike both kept naming him by name as someone who was really standing out to him. Multiple times by coaches, multiple times by players, and post practice pressers, they would ask, so which of the new guys is really standing out? And they would always say Deshaun Bishop. Then we got to see what he was doing in the orange and white game, and he had a tremendous orange and white game. He's just kind of gotten forgotten about since he didn't play this year, but just like Rustin just said, I would not be shocked if that number 3 spot, and maybe even number 2 spot behind Cam Seldon, behind Dylan Sampson, ends up being Deshaun Bishop. No, they want to get the ball in Cam Seldon's hands for sure, but I think Deshaun is going to make it very hard to keep him off the field, and that's very good news if you're Vols fans. Zach said Peyton has a great name. That's true. He does. Tri-Cities Vols said he's a track guy too. I believe that's for sure. He has crazy speed. He was one of the guys that they used the little GPS tracker on this year at one point, and he reached like 21 miles per hour or something. I mean, it was very incredible. Carl said Bama used to have backs that waited their turn, play 1 year, and then be a first or second round draft pick. He's exactly right. He's exactly right. And I hope that was obviously pre transfer portal. But I mean, I'm hoping like Ingram, Richardson, all those guys that waited their turn and then just dominated. I'm hoping that these guys will do the same. That's the hope. So Kellen Lindstrom, tell us about Kellen.
So I think Kellen Lindstrom is the most underrated player in the entire class. I don't think you're going to see him this year. I think he's a red shirt and develop for a year kind of guy, but I think you absolutely could see him next year. He is right now 6'5", 235. He is really, really long. So he can add a lot of muscle mass. A lot of people think he could get as high as 265. One of the things that people love about him is right now he can play either defensive end spot. He's very versatile in that way. But if they can add 30 pounds of muscle mass to him, he could actually play all 4 defensive line spots. And a lot of people talked about him in that way. That's how everybody was planning to use him. I think the biggest thing with him, we always talk about who else offered. Well, Kellen Lindstrom picked Tennessee over Alabama. So, Nick Saban doesn't offer defensive ends that can't play. This kid is a big time player. Again, I hope we get to redshirt him so he can add that muscle mass he needs to add. And I think as early as next year, you're going to be hearing Kellen Lindstrom's name a lot.
Zach asked, is he the brother of Chris Lindstrom? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Robert said, is Jabari Small going to the NFL? I do not believe Jabari will be going to the NFL this year. I also don't believe Jabari is going to be wearing Tennessee orange this year either. Fairly confident, especially after the presser with Amari Thomas the other day and his reaction when asked about Jabari, because they're best friends. They have been since childhood. Sounds like Jabari is going to be transferring to another school this year and playing 1 year somewhere else, like similar to what Ty Chandler did at North Carolina. And then he would probably, get drafted or sign an undrafted free agent contract from that place, somewhere he can go and be the featured back. Because I think he sees writing on the wall at Tennessee that he won't be the featured back this year. So I think that's what's going on there. That's a great question.
Yep.
One name that people will love. Don't know how much we'll see him on the field, but one name that people will love, Mike Matthews.
So he's the total package. He is elite speed, incredible ball skills, good size, big, long arms. One of the top wide receivers in the country. I don't necessarily think we will see him early. If we have injuries, I could see himself playing himself into a role in the future. And I say that assuming Brew returns. If Brew does not return, then I could see Mike Matthews getting into the rotation a little earlier than expected. I'll save this for later, but yeah, I'll save it for the next wide receiver. So yeah, I think he could push for time early if Brew does not return. If Brew does return, I think he's probably looking at a red shirt.
Zach said he thinks Mike is in the top 4 receivers in his opinion. As far as natural skill, probably, yeah. But as we've seen, Josh Heupel doesn't usually play true freshman wide receivers very much, so I think that might come into play here as well.
And that's because their system's hard. For a wide receiver, it's very difficult to learn how to run this system because they literally have to change their routes on the fly based on what the defender does. And, for a kid coming out of high school who is like, oh, I'm running the post corner this time. Oh, I'm running the slant this time. Oh, you want me to run the 10-yard drag? When for most high schools, their routes are called for them, having to all of a sudden go, wait, I'm just going to go vertical, and whatever the defense does, I'm going to do something different based on how their hips turn. That's hard for a high school kid trying to figure it out, especially at the speed of the SEC.
And to your point, the last thing you said there, it's also a kid that's used to just saying, all right, set hut, and he just runs past people.
Yeah.
And he may not be able to do that quite as easily in the SEC as he was in high school. So A little bit of a different ball game for sure. JUCO defensive line transfer, or it's not transfer, but signee, Jamal Wallace. Tell us about Jamal.
Yeah, we talked about Jamal the other night. Jamal is a freak athlete. He was a high school wide receiver and defensive back who gained over 100 pounds over the last 2 years. And East Mississippi used him as a stand-up hybrid defensive end outside linebacker. But the reality is, when he started this fall, he was 270, and he's now 302. He just hit a really weird late in life growth spurt, and he brings a lot to the table. He can literally play all 4 defensive line positions. And because he grew up as a wide receiver defensive back, he's got weirdly impressive speed and quickness for a guy that's 300 pounds. So I'm personally very excited to see what Rodney Garner does with a kid like this, because he legitimately could play all 4 defensive line positions. And if he listens well and progresses, by the end of the year, who knows, we might even see him do all 4 in the same game. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens with him.
Jeff said, what's crazy is if Small and Wright came back, both of them, they both are an easy reach or break in the career rushing record for the Vols, especially Jabari. I mean, he's very close to breaking it. A lot of people thought he'd break it this year, and Jalen just had an incredible year. So, Carl said, I'm going to save that one because it's somebody coming up on our list here. So I'm going to save that one, Carl. We'll come back to that. Let's see. Jake Merklinger, the quarterback in this class.
Yeah, I love Merk. He's a gunslinger. He played in a high school system at Calvary Day that likes to throw it around. And they do some stuff in that system with similar route combinations to what Josh Heupel does, where the receivers get to kind of choose on the fly. So that part of the system, Jake will actually adapt to pretty quickly. He needs to add some weight, just like Nico did this year. He's a high school kid. He needs to get bigger. I hope, and everybody has to remember, the portal isn't done yet, and there's going to be a whole nother portal session after spring practice. I hope that in the upcoming weeks and in the time after fall break or spring break, that we're able to find a transfer quarterback, because the absolute best thing could happen is Jake Merklinger gets to spend a year learning, growing, getting better, and gets to redshirt. And we get that 2-year gap between every one of our quarterbacks. Find a guy in the portal who's okay with being a backup because he lost his job and, at another school, and, he's going to be the backup there, or he can go try and be a backup somewhere else and get a new chance. Let's go find a guy like that who's willing to be the backup in case Nico goes down, they're ready to go. They've competed at a high level. And let Jake Merklinger redshirt.
Yeah, because he's one play away, unfortunately. And that Rustin is spot on when he said he's got to put on weight. He has to. He has to. We're talking like Tyler Bray stature kind of here.
Yeah.
So
maybe skinnier.
He's got to put on some weight. Let's see. Carl said Merk Slinger. Nice, Carl. Well played. Let's see. Robert said they said Jake was very intelligent and great with the ball.
Yep.
He certainly lit up the scoreboard with numbers in high school, no doubt about it.
Yeah. And Calvary Day runs a wide open system. So he had opportunities to really understand how to read coverages, how to identify mismatches in the secondary. So he's had a lot of experience throwing the ball all over the place.
So Trust City's Vol just asked maybe the best question of the night. Is Gaston Moore gone for sure? So this is a great question. The answer is actually no. He is not gone for sure. But he kind of is. Because he went through senior day activities. He knows he can play somewhere, and which is why he's um, why he went through senior day activities.
Yep.
But he's not, at least publicly, entered the transfer portal yet. Um, Here's my opinion on that. I think the fact that Gaston, and this is totally, just my intuition, my deciphering ability, has nothing to do with what anybody's actually said. But the fact that Gaston is still there makes me think that Joe is not playing in the Citrus Bowl. Gaston knows that, and he's sticking around to be the backup quarterback in the Citrus Bowl.
Well, and remember, the portal's still open, so he could go in after the bowl, or he may stay just to get reps until spring practice. Put some, in the orange and white game, put some legit video on, and then see what the trickle out effect is in the second portal session. There may be, who knows? Let's say Miami goes through their spring practice and realizes, oh crap, we don't have anybody. These kids are terrible. And they go and raid, Coastal Carolina and get Coastal Carolina's quarterback. Now all of a sudden that Coastal Carolina's in a bind, and a guy like Gaston could look really attractive to him. So, those conversations happen. Like, let's not beat around the bush. Like, there are coaches at Tennessee that are absolutely talking to other schools going, hey, if you need a quarterback, we've got one you could have if you need it. They're all connected. All coaches know each other. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw some group of 5 school that got raided and lost their quarterback who had some kind of connection to the Tennessee offensive staff. And all of a sudden now the blue Gaston Moore transfers. I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
And kudos to Gaston for staying through the bowl game, because he's doing the exact opposite of what Malik Murphy did at Texas.
Yep.
And Malik Murphy, what he did at Texas is even more egregious because they're still in the playoff. Like they're still fighting for a national championship. Was it detrimental to maybe for Gaston to wait until after the bowl game while all the stuff's going on and everybody's shuffling? Potentially. So kudos to him for staying and sticking with this team. Carl makes a good point here, and it could be the case. He said, does he see a future at quarterback, or maybe he's staying because he sees a future in coaching? That is, potential for that. That's why Navy Schuler's staying. Maybe so. I do think Gaston doesn't want to play. But we'll see. Shannon said, good night, fellas. Got to get these bones to bed. Go Big Orange. Absolutely. Hey, we appreciate you, Shannon. We appreciate you, buddy. So Carl makes a good point, and that could be the case. He does have 1 year of eligibility left, which would make us think that he'd want to play, but who knows? Got about 5 more people, maybe 6 here. Jesse Perry.
Yeah, definite red shirt. Big kid, long, athletic, has a big ceiling, but definitely needs to add some weight and not ready for the SEC. And that's typical for offensive line. And for those who are like, well, we need offensive line depth, they went and got a couple of guys that can provide that, but they need 3 or 4 others that aren't going to provide that you can stash and develop and bring along for the future. Because again, you don't want offensive linemen that are freshmen playing in the SEC. Like if you can at all avoid it, you want to avoid it.
Offensive line in the SEC is a development position for sure. Jordan Ross. Woo, intriguing person here.
Yeah, I love Jordan Ross. Reminds me, and don't quote me on this, but just talking about overall game and style of play, he reminds me a lot of Jadeveon Clowney. He's explosive off the edge. He plays like he's angry at the world all the time. He almost seems to enjoy violence. I mean, it's weird. He is a day one difference maker. He will absolutely be on the 2 deep. We're going to have 4 edge rushers in James Pierce, Joshua Josephs, Jordan Ross, and Shondavian Bradley that can absolutely get after people, and they're just going to come in waves.
Absolutely. And what you just said is exactly why I'm excited about next year. William Satterwhite.
He potentially could push to be on the 2 deep. I think he's another one that, even though he was a national top 200 or top 300 player, he's got really good size. He's weirdly quick for his size, which is impressive. He really seems to enjoy being physical. That's a good trait for an offensive lineman. We had one that just transferred that did not enjoy physicality, and Arkansas is going to find that out the hard way. So it's good to see a lineman who enjoys being physical. He's another one, like, if they have to have him on the 2 deep, okay, that means he played well and earned the spot. But it'd be really nice to be able to just spend a year building him up, getting him bigger, red shirt, get him an extra year of eligibility, and get him ready for the future. Because after this year, we're going to have to replace a bunch of linemen. So it would be nice to be able to stash a few that we can just sit and teach and grow and not have to worry about getting them injured.
Tri-Cities Vol asked, is he an interior lineman or a tackle?
William Satterwhite?
Right.
Right now, they project him as a guard, but he does have enough quickness that he could slide out and play tackle. They're probably going to teach him both. My guess is he'll probably be on the right side. I don't see him as a left side guy, but I think they'll probably teach him both and try to stick him on the right side.
Zach said Jordan Ross is going to be a dog, and he's exactly right. He will be. One of the guys I'm very excited about, actually, Edwin Spillman.
Yeah. Again, plays with violence. He loves to hit people. Plays with a really high motor, high effort guy, high energy guy. I think he will play as a freshman, probably not on defense, probably exclusively on special teams. But I think he's a guy that can go out and make some things happen on special teams and earn his spot for the future. Linebacker is not a position we're really going to need a whole lot of extra guys, but I think in a year or two, he'll be a guy they'll be relying on there. And, until then, he can be a big contributor on special teams. He loves to hit people. I would not be surprised if at the end of the year, when they do a highlight reel, I would bet there's going to be a couple of hits on kickoff team where Edmund Spillman just destroys someone. He likes physicality.
Yeah, I'm super excited about Edwin Spillman because, he's in-state kid. Just like you said, you watch his highlight tape, he brings the lumber, man, when he goes to hit people. And I heard an interview with him today. That the interview happened yesterday, but I heard it today. Okay, so we can all agree that Jacob Warren was probably the best interview on the team this year. Everybody said he was like a Fortune 500 CEO sitting up there at the mic. He was fantastic. Edwin Spillman was incredibly well-spoken and poised in front of a camera today. When I saw him on that interview, I was so impressed with him. Just absolutely incredible. Whoa, speaking of incredible, Shannon, man, you were the man. He said, I forgot the door fee. Thanks for the info and helping us Weekend Warriors hip. Keep it up. Go Orange, go home. Absolutely. Go Big Orange. Man, that is incredible. Thank you so much, Shannon. You are the man. Thank you. We so appreciate that very, very much. Hearing Edwin speak today, that was just super exciting. Just like I said, it looked like our next Jacob Warren coming right through. It was just an incredible interview. Just awesome. Shannon, I don't get that one, man. I'm sorry. I don't get that comment. I appreciate it. Let's see. Alpha Man's 06 said, I heard Satterwhite as center.
They could try it. It's not the ideal spot for him, but I mean, the reality is they need another center. So they're probably going to try him. They're probably going to try Gage Ginther. They're going to take a shot, but I don't see him there. If he can figure it out and be that would be a huge boost.
Jeff Puckett said, don't sleep on the Wallace kid. No doubt, man. Absolutely. I totally agree. Trust that he's I believe he's talking about Edwin Spillman here. He said, didn't he knock the Eccles kid out of the game with IMG?
Yes.
He did, actually. He did. Because he hit him so hard.
Yep.
Yeah, that is correct. Alpha Man said you missed Herring brother, who is better than Bradley. Oh, okay. So you're speaking of
so Caleb,
the younger Caleb Herring, yeah.
So I think Caleb's an anomaly. I'm not sure Caleb's going to end up being where he is right now. I think his long-term role is up in the air. I'm not sure where he fits in. He will fit in somewhere because he's a really good player. But I don't think they know what they want to do with him because he's kind of a tweener right now.
Oh, Shannon said that he accidentally left a word out. Worth it. Oh, I got you. Okay, I'm with you now. I just didn't understand the sentence there. Let's see. Zach said he's concerned about all these physical players a little bit, though. It makes him nervous. We already get a ton of flags. We might get more. Yeah, I understand that. But you want defensive guys who will hit people. That's for sure.
We want mean tacklers. Tackling wins games.
For sure. Another wide receiver, very important name for people to remember, Braylon Staley.
So I think Braylon can go one of two ways. I personally love him. I think, in my opinion, he's actually, and everybody's going to go nuts when I say this, I think he's actually better than Mike Matthews for a couple of reasons. When you watch a game, there's always that guy. Jawan Jennings had this. There's always that guy that when he's on the field, you're like, at any minute, that dude could create a lot of problems for us. Like, we're not real sure how he's going to do it or when he's going to do it, but that dude concerns us. Braylon Staley has that kind of it factor about him where you're always just kind of wondering when he's going to break out on you. He's got incredible hands. He catches everything thrown remotely close to him. He is really slippery. He's hard to tackle. He's a relentless competitor. He just keeps scrapping and fighting. Personality-wise, he's going to remind a lot of people of Jawan Jennings. So I think he'll go one of two ways. I think they'll either get crazy excited about him and go, we don't really need him this year, so let's redshirt him, and he's going to be a day one factor next year. Or he goes out there and actually beats out Mike Matthews. They end up redshirting Matthews, and Braylon Staley's in the mix.
Jeff said he thinks Braylon could be better than Mike Matthews as well. Tri-Cities Vol mentioned the billboard of Braylon in Columbia. That is true. There is a billboard right there. Mm-hmm. They do it for every player, so they can't be like, it's a nice cover their tail move. They can't be like, oh, they're doing this as a dig at South Carolina, which they 100% are. But
yeah.
The fact that they did it for everybody, that's a good thing. Zach said he definitely wants defensive players to like to hit too, but the Zebras are out to get us. He said, "Can he catch a Hail Mary like Jennings?" I think so.
He's got that it factor. He's like, when you watch him play, like you're just, and it's hard to explain, but you're just watching the game going. You're watching with expectation, like you're fully sitting there going, at any minute he's about to win this game. Like you don't know how he's going to do it, you don't know when it's going to happen, but you're just sitting there going, at some point Braylon Staley's going to win this game. Even the All-American games he's been playing in, he's been dominating. He's just different, and I will not be surprised if he beats out Mike Matthews.
Doug said dozed off in the recliner, just woke up and realized Vol Bros are on. Go Big Orange. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. We're glad you're with us, Doug. Glad you're with us, man. Well, our last player, Doug woke up in time just for the last guy here. Carl said third and Juwan. Absolutely. Well, now it's like third and Brew. I mean, Brew's the guy now that we are confident you throw the ball to him. Jeff said he's also a very humble kid. You love to see that,
He
right?
is.
I mean, like, you love to see that. Absolutely.
But even now, when you watch the 49ers, you watch with this expectation of at some point Juwan Jennings is going to do something. Like, I don't know what it's going to be, but he's about to do something big. Like, and that's the same thought process you have when Braylon Staley's on the field. It's just weird. It's an it factor that only certain players have.
Robert said Staley's definitely one of the best receivers in the class. Absolutely. But Jeff, I think that's a great point, man. You like to see kids who come in, they're humble, they work hard, and they earn their spot by just making it happen on the field. You love to see that. So our last player, and honestly, of all the offensive linemen, Carl said Juwan will throw a block also. Absolutely. So will Brew. Brew reminds me a lot of similar, facets to his game as Juwan.
So will Braylon. If you go watch Braylon's highlight reel, a bunch of the plays are not him catching balls. It's him pancaking linebackers and defensive backs run blocking. I mean, he doesn't mind to obliterate somebody.
Zach hopes you're right. He'd love to see it. Absolutely. So our last player here, our last freshman signee, honestly, of all the offensive linemen, this is the one I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Bennett Warren.
Yeah. Bennett's a massive animal. He's 6'7", 342. He has weirdly elite skills for a guy as big as him. Typically guys that are that big coming out of high school, they either have slow feet or their hands aren't quite where they need to be as far as, getting two blocks, but he can do it. I think he absolutely will compete for a spot on the 2 deep at one of the tackles. I wouldn't be surprised at all if by the end of the year, especially if we have injuries, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year he's starting at one of the tackles because he's just a massive human being and he's got really good skills. And, he's got an opportunity to compete early.
We talked about, we've said this on here multiple times that we got to have depth. We got to have depth. Well, he's our depth. He's part of it. I think you'll definitely see him in that, in that 2 deep. So here's the deal. We're going to do our top 3 freshman signees who could impact. We're not going to talk about transfers. We're talking just about the freshmen, the top 3 freshman signees who could impact the 2024 season.
Yeah.
Count them down 3 to 1. Rustin, who is your number 3 person?
Yeah. So for me, number 3 is Jordan Ross. I think he absolutely contributes day one. It'll be interesting to see how much, because he is going to be rotating with Shondavian Bradley, Joshua Josephs, James Pierce, maybe even Caleb Herring. So when you've got that many guys rotating, it does limit your reps a little bit. But I think he absolutely is out there from the start.
All right. So my number 3 is Caleb Beasley. I think that, we all saw last year the secondary wasn't the biggest strength on our team. So they're clearing out, man. They're making way for new folks. And obviously we got Jermon McCoy as a transfer. He's going to be starting. There's no doubt about that. If Gabe Junior-Lawley comes back, he's going to be the other starter. There's no doubt about that. But as we've seen, you need more than one dude at each corner spot. And I think Caleb Beasley has enough skill that he will be one of those dudes that's, the second, third guy in. I mean, obviously you got, Ricky Gibson back there. You got, guys who will be obviously in the rotation. But I'm telling you, don't be shocked if Caleb Beasley is one of the dudes in that rotation. Rustin, who's your number 2 freshman
Who is my number 2? No, I know. I'm just um I'm as I'm saying it, I'm second guessing it. So I believe the one who has the most impact will be Gage Ginther, not because I think he's the best lineman, but because of what we talked about the fact that he can play all 5 offensive line positions. And we saw it this year. Offensive line depth is an issue. Gage Ginther is SEC ready right now. Maybe not at all 5 spots, but he's definitely that at least 2 of them. And they've very clearly said he's going to learn all 5. So I think just because of sheer versatility, I think it's Gage Ginther. As I'm saying it, I'm sitting here going, I really wish I'd put Braylon Staley in there at number 2. But at the same time, I mean, we're probably going to have 2 very different lists here. And what does it say about our recruiting that we have legit 6 or 7 freshmen who, on a very talented roster, could see the field early? I mean, these kids are going to come in; they're going to push for time, and I think it speaks to the caliber of the class. It's a good group.
So my number 2 was your number 3, Jordan Ross. I think it was 247 that ranked him the number 1. Yeah, 247 ranked him the number 1 edge rusher in this entire class in the whole country.
Yeah.
247 had him as the number 11 overall national player. On 3 Sports had him as the number 4 edge rusher and number 38 overall national player. You mentioned it earlier, exactly why I have him as my number 2. We got 4 edge rushers that are just going to just wreak havoc on people next year. When you think about
5, if they leave Caleb Herring at the one of those
Sure.
defensive end spots, I mean, they legitimately could have 5. I think they probably move him to another spot, but who knows? He might be out there.
If he stays at that spot, he would be the slowest of the 5. But you think about these 4 dudes with the speed coming off the edge. You got James Pierce Jr., Joshua Josephs, Shondavian Bradley, and Jordan Ross. No one wants to see that if you're on the other side of the ball. That right there is enough to be excited about next year. Ricky, if you're still watching with us, I know you're excited about Nico. Everybody's excited about Nico. Everybody needs to be excited about these 4 dudes coming off the edge.
Yeah.
Because that is going to be a nightmarish situation for opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They are not going to be looking forward to that. So, Rustin, who is your number 1 player that you think of the freshman signees? We're not talking about transfers. We're talking about freshman signees. If you're just joining us, the top freshman signing who has the ability to make an impact in 2024.
Yeah, I went Boo Carter, not for the reason most people probably think. It's not because of his ability to play safety. It's because of his ability to return kicks. I think he can be a day 1 difference maker at punt returner or kick returner. And I think he can create some extra points for us from time to time. Bare minimum, he can flip the field for us occasionally. He is electric with the ball in his hands, and I think he's going to shock people at how much he can create on returns. It's different when you watch it. It's like, why can literally no one tackle him? I mean, you're watching him escape from 4 and 5 people, and you're going, how in the world did he even, like, how's he still standing? It's a very different thing to watch him return kicks.
And to your point, those 4 or 5 people he's getting away from is high classification football in Tennessee.
Yeah.
He made Maryville look like a JV team. And we're talking about Maryville, I mean, the guy is just a phenomenal athlete, Mr. Football in the state of Tennessee in his classification. So we did not talk about this as far as like who we're going to put for our people before. Boo Carter was also my number 1 person on the list of who could potentially impact the 2024 season. And It's the exact same reason Rustin said, because I think he's going to be returning punts. D. Williams is not returning and to the team, and I think Boo Carter is going to step right in and take over for him, because Rustin he used a great word to describe Boo. It's different when he's different when he's returning punts. So, I think on punt returns, I think you'll see him back there. I think on kickoff returns, I think you'll see Cam Selden and Boo Carter back there. I think he's going to be on the field every single game in those roles, which is why I put him at number one, if somebody who's going to make an impact on this upcoming year. Now, what's interesting about that is this. If by some chance you saw the VolQuest's 2-minute drill after Heupel's press conference yesterday, they actually mentioned Boo Carter by name. Austin Price did. And Austin Price said that Boo Carter is already impressing people in practice. Okay, he's only been there since Saturday. All right. So if they practiced every single day, that would be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 practices. So 4 practices in, and that's if they practiced every single day, and he's already impressing people and turning heads. I mean, the kid's different. I mean, that's just a rare athlete. And so I think you'll see him on the field. And I think that's why he's the number one as far as potential impact for this season. Now, I invite everybody to consider the names that neither one of us had on there. Neither one of us had Mike Matthews on there. Mike's one of the highest rated players in this class. But when you look at who we have in the receiver room, you got to be thrilled that we're sitting here thinking that a 5-star may not even step on the field in the first, of the 9 guys in that room. He's not, in the top 2 or 3. He's farther down the list than that. Where on that list? I guess we'll find out. I think he'll probably beat out Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb. But is he going to beat out Brew McCoy if Brew returns? Is he going to beat out Squirrel White? Is he going to beat out Braylon Staley, for that matter? Is he going to beat out Dante Thornton, Chris Brazel?
Is he going to beat out Nathan Leacock, a year older and a year stronger? I mean,
yeah. So, I mean, there's just that's a good thing that, we have a plethora of riches there in the wide receiver room. We just got to get the ball to them. And so that's where, Nico comes into play. So let's see. Whoa. Hey, Carl, you were the man. I did not see that until just now. I apologize about that, Carl. Carl, man, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas, bros. Hey, Merry Christmas to you too, Carl. That is incredible. Thank you so much for that gift. You are the man. You are the man. Let's see. Doug asked, as you know, I got tuned in late. Who do you think is the sleeper in this class? Ooh, good question. So somebody who may not make an immediate impact now, but down the road will be major impact.
I'll go Kellen Lindstrom.
I think that's a pretty good pick. Sleeper. Because see, sleeper implies that you're not really expecting much of him right now. Man, that's a tough question. I want to say Edwin Spillman. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
Because I think by the time that he's a junior, good grief, get out of the way, man. I mean, like that's who I want to say. Because I mean, you want to talk about somebody who hits like Al Wilson, or who, has a motor like Al Wilson. It's going to be Edwin Spillman out of this group. I mean, that's who it's going to be. So I hope I'm right, in that in 2 to 3 years, that's who we're comparing him to. But I do think it'll take 2 to 3 years for that to develop. That's a great question. That's a really good question. Let's see. Zach said his top 3 would be Jordan Ross, Mike Matthews, and Boo Carter. I'm loving the emoji for Boo. I'm loving that. That's great. I think that's 3 solid choices. I mean, 2 of them we both had on ours too. Robert said, "I just want to tell you guys how much I appreciate your work. You guys are absolutely awesome." We appreciate that, Robert. Thank you so much, man. That's very kind of you. We really do. Thank you for that. Very, very kind. Dester said, "Great show. Thanks for all the info." We appreciate that, Dester. Thank you, man. Let's see. Jeff, his top 3, number 3, Marcus Gorey. Ooh, I like that. That's intriguing. Because of special teams, he could be on there for special teams. Number 2, Caleb Beasley. Totally agree. And number 1, Boo Carter. Yeah, I think that's a good list. I like that list. Look at that. All 3 guys from the state of Tennessee as well. 2 of them from the same school. 2 of them from Bradley Central.
Well, and I think people have overlooked this a little bit. Boo Carter just won Mr. Football. Caleb Beasley was the number 1 rated player in the state. So, there's 2 guys there that are both going to be competing for jobs in the secondary that you could make a case are the 2 best players in the state of Tennessee.
Absolutely. Doug said, "I really like this class, but I wish we could have closed better down the stretch." Yeah, I understand that. I think it's because they had their guys. I think is what happened.
I don't know that it's so much about closing as it is roster management right now is chaos. And they're trying to keep spots open for the rest of the portal period. And honestly, I mean, some of what's happening right now in bowl practice is they are evaluating some of these early enrollees and they're going, okay, can these guys help us next fall? If not, then okay, when we get to that next portal session after spring practice, we've got to go find another offensive lineman, or we got to go find, Gaston Moore's leaving. We got to go find another backup quarterback. They have to really process through that. And so they kind of have to keep their options open and hang on to some spots, and they can't just sign the way they used to.
Yep. Doug said he liked your pick for sleeper.
Any kid that's a high priority for Nick Saban is a high priority for me. I will take that kid every day of the week.
Doug said, "It's way past my bedtime. Got to go to bed. Merry Christmas, Vol Bros and Vol Nation. Go Big Orange." Hey, Merry Christmas, Doug. We appreciate you, buddy. Merry Christmas. Some of the other comments that came through. I like this from Carl. Carl, this is a really good. I like this a lot, actually. I love this thought. So Carl said, I think I figured out why Heupel may be going after edges so much. Is it because he plans on scoring so much they have to abandon the run game to keep up? So they're going to be dropping back to pass to go sack him. So focus is getting to the quarterback. I love that idea, Carl. I love that, man. I think that's a great idea. It's nice to be able to have quarterbacks not comfortable. That's the main thing for sure. Zach saying, "I'm telling everyone 3 natties coming back to Knoxville in 2024. So I'm assuming that's football, basketball, and baseball. Actually, it could be women's volleyball. They are very good. Let's see. Jeff said about Carl's comment about getting edges that and getting an early lead like Colts did with Peyton. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff said his sleeper for the class is Jamal Wallace. Totally agree. Great choice. Great choice. Let's see. So here is how we're going to end the show tonight. If everybody recalls, so a couple months ago, I think it was months ago actually now.
Yeah.
A board of trustee member for Florida State. I still can't even believe the dude said it publicly, but he did. On an interview, a Zoom interview. So not only was it audio, it was video as well. He went on record as saying, when being asked about the ACC during all the conference expansion and realignment stuff, he went on record as saying, "I don't think it's a matter of if, but when we leave the ACC." Dude said that in the interview, those words I don't think it's a matter of if, but when we leave the ACC. Yikes. Okay. That if the board of trustees are saying that publicly, that means it's happening. I mean, like, that's the bottom line there. You do not say those words out loud in public unless you know it's going to happen.
If you'll remember, like 6 or 7 months ago, it might, I don't know, somewhere around then, we talked about on here, Greg McElroy on his show, Mac and Cube, he essentially said on the air that he had talked to someone on the inside of the ACC who felt like the ACC was on borrowed time and may not have more than 3 years left. So, this board meeting tomorrow might be the beginning of the end.
Well, news came out today, and Rustin just mentioned it there. He hit on it. News came out today that the Board of Trustees at Florida State has called an emergency board meeting tomorrow to discuss leaving the ACC. It could be as early as 2025, but probably 2026.
Unless they want to pay $120 million and they can go tomorrow.
That's what the meeting is about tomorrow. That is correct. The meeting tomorrow. Whoa, dang, man, this is awesome. This is fantastic. Jeff, thank you so much. He said, thanks for the show, guys. I appreciate the effort and work you guys put into it. Merry Christmas. Hey, we really appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you so much for that gift, man. That is wonderful. Thank you. We really do appreciate that. Robert said, Merry Christmas to all. May God's blessing be with you. Thank you so much, Robert. We appreciate that, man. Merry Christmas. God bless you too, brother. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. So the meeting that they're having tomorrow at Florida State, and here's the deal. There is no way that this is going to be quiet. Like whatever is decided on in that meeting, there's no way. The fact that this information was leaked to the media today shows that they want there to be some buzz around it. By tomorrow night, the whole world's going to know what was said in that meeting yesterday or tomorrow. And so I'm personally very intrigued to see what ends up happening in that meeting, because exactly what Rustin just said, the meeting tomorrow is for the Board of Trustees to read through all of the television, deals and stuff like that. There's a fancy name for it. I can't think of it. It's 3 words.
Grant of rights.
Grant of rights. There it is. I knew it was 3 words. They're going to read through the grant of rights, which is the contract with the ACC, which includes all the media deals and who's getting money from where and all that kind of stuff, and how much they would have to pay to get out of that contract. So the fact that they're having a meeting,
which we now know is $120 million.
So, I mean, the fact that, and that's just for Florida State, by the way, that's not that all the schools in the ACC as a whole. That's just
listen to this quote from yesterday from Florida State's athletic director talking about the grant of rights agreement. We have a great understanding of what opportunities are in that document, how that document could hold us back, but also what the opportunities are. So this is going to be an active discussion. So they're literally walking in, not from a perspective of, hey, should we leave? But, hey, if we decide we're leaving, it's $120 million, and here's the areas of the contract we're going to attack. Like, I mean, they know exactly how they're getting out of this.
Yeah, they go. So the fact that they've called this meeting, the fact that people like that, I hadn't heard that quote yet, so I'm glad you found that. The fact that the athletic director, the board of trustees are saying these things publicly and to the media.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was an interview yesterday with ESPN. Like, he knew what he was saying.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. They know what they're doing. They know what they're saying. They want out. And, the Pac-12 is gone now. And if I would venture to guess that if people in the spring of 2022, if somebody had told them, well, the Pac-12 is going to be gone after one more year, people would have said, no way. There's no way. the Pac-12 dissolved in a matter of days, literally days, not a month, not even really a week. It was less than a week. It was gone in a matter of days.
There's a lot of
And,
people on the inside saying that if Florida State moves forward with this, that Clemson and Miami will be quickly behind them.
oh, I'm sure. I totally agree with that. Carl said Florida State to the Pac-2.
In all
um,
seriousness, don't you know that Oregon State and Washington State are probably calling the commissioner of the ACC going, so just in case.
yeah, exactly. And no, I guarantee you're right. And I guarantee the ACC's listening too. Because who else are they going to go for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was already a spit in the face of Oregon State and Washington State that they went and got SMU before they got them. But now they may be coming and begging to Oregon State and Washington State too, just to maintain a conference.
Yep.
So, you know, we'd already been talking about on this show, and of course, numerous people were all around the country. How long is it going to be a pack, or not a Power Five, but Power Four? Well, now how long is it going to be? And this was what people have been talking about. How long is it going to be till it's Power Three?
So
And
the
the
Big
ACC is
12, yeah,
gone.
the Big 12 is licking its chops because they're saying, I mean, it's amazing how a change of leadership can make such a drastic difference. A year ago, the Big 12 was teetering on, is this thing going to ever exist? To now, they're the power player bigger than the ACC. And if the ACC ends up folding, the Big 12 is just going to sit there and poach all the schools that the Big 10 and the SEC don't want. And we're
That's
going to
right.
end up with 3 power conferences. Like it's mind blowing.
So it really begins to really kind of blow your mind when you think about in 2026 or in 2027 what an SEC schedule could look like. There's no telling what an SEC schedule will look like
Yeah.
in those years. It's kind of hard to really understand what college football as a whole will look like in 2026 or 2027. But the SEC it's not going to be these teams. I can tell you that much right now.
Yep.
There's going to be some different folks in there. Carl said, people would have thought the Big 12 would have gone there. Yeah, I agree. If you before it, I go back to this in the spring of 2022. If you had said the Power Five conferences, SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac 12, of any of those, which was the most likely to fold, I would have said the Big 12. In the spring of 2022, and now look where we are. It's totally different. So,
and all it took was a change of commissioner. Like the new commissioner of the Big 12 completely revitalized everything, and in literally a year, flipped them from we're going under to one of the 3 biggest power players in the world. Like it's an amazing turnaround.
So, it'll be interesting to see when that 2027 schedule drops, and George what's his name? What's McIntyre's first name? George? Is it? I
Yeah,
don't think it's George. Is it
it
George?
is.
Okay,
Mhm.
George McIntyre, and he's our starting quarterback. And we're talking about how Georgia's going to have to play Bama, Florida, Georgia, Clemson, and Florida State. That'll be an interesting schedule. Times they are a changing. Well, I'm so glad we got to have everybody with us tonight. Like I said, this is our last show before Christmas, so we hope everybody really does have a wonderful Christmas. You think about the nativity shirt that says "True Story." It's true story. So we hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas. We will not see people until after Christmas. We haven't even decided really what day we'll be live next. I'm confident it won't be any later than January 3rd, but maybe next Tuesday. Carl said, I'm saying George, Evan, like you could hear me. I thought it was George, but then I was like, no, I don't think it is. I was doubting myself. So maybe next Tuesday, and we'll preview, but that's like 6 days before the the bowl game. So it's like a preview way in advance. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll talk about it.
Out.
But for sure, no later than January 3rd, we'll be here. Jeff said, do you think going to a 12-team playoff will bring more big non-conference games since you can make playoffs with a couple of losses? Well, that's a fair question. Here's what – go ahead, Rustin. I'll give my answer. You can give yours.
The SEC had the chance to go to 9 conference games and stuck with 8 because all the coaches said it's too much wear and tear. We don't want all these extra punishing games. We want as many cupcakes as we can get.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Nick Saban philosophy. It doesn't matter who you win. You just got to win. Who you beat, you just got to beat them. So I do think – so it's interesting because, like, for example, if you had told me Tennessee Clemson, I'd say that's a big non-conference game, a big non-conference game. Well, that may end up being a conference game in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and they're not wanting an extra conference game because of wear and tear. Think how much more wear and tear is going to be if you have to make a deep playoff run. I mean, you're going from playing, like you said, 12 games in a year to 16. Yep. They're not going to add extra difficulty. If anything, it's going to get weaker.
Well, and so, let's say that you don't play in your conference championship game. So let's say like Ole Miss this year would not have played in the conference championship game, but they would have been in the playoff. So they would have had 12 games. So you say, well, they wouldn't play at 16th. No, they would have had a 16th to win it all because they would not have had a first round bye. And so they would have to play in that round of 12. And then to win it all, you got to win 12 and then the round of 8 and then the final 4 and then championship. So that would still be 12 plus 4, 16. So it's still a bunch of games. But I see what you're saying, Jeff. And I think that, hey, man, money talks. And if people put up the money, I bet they do it. So I think you're right. It could happen for sure. But I think a lot of coaches are going to be saying, we just want to make the playoff. Like that's our goal. So schedule 4 cupcakes so we can make the playoff.
Hey, you mentioned that, and we stumbled onto something a couple of weeks ago, and we've never mentioned it. And I just want to bring it up because I think it speaks volumes of Josh Heupel. We were looking at Josh Heupel's contract, and most coaches have, if you make it to X number of bowl, or if you make it to this bowl, you get this bonus. If you win a bowl game, you get this bonus. Josh Heupel has no bonuses in his contract except one. And it's not the SEC championship. It's the national championship. The only way Josh Heupel gets a bonus is if they win the national championship. And I personally love that in an era of college football where coaches are negotiating a bonus for sneezing in the right direction, the only one that is in Josh Heupel's contract is the national championship.
That's right.
That was all I needed to know about him. He didn't want any of that other garbage in there. He didn't care about any of that other garbage. He's like, we have one goal and one goal only. Even the SEC championship didn't matter to him.
When Rustin asked me that, Rustin discovered that. And when he asked me that, I said, I bet it's the SEC championship. He said, nope. It was impressive. That's very impressive. Tri-Cities Vols said, great show, guys. Merry Christmas to y'all and your family. Hey, we appreciate that, buddy. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Hearts and show love and kindness. It's really needed. Amen, brother. Totally agree. 100% agree. And Carl said, speaking of 16 games to win a natty, he said, man, we may need 8 receivers to make it through that.
Yep.
So everybody will get on the field. Carl said he loves it. It's natty or bust for the bonus. He loves that. Rusty, welcome, Rusty. He said Fulmer used to get raises just for winning the East. Yep, just not even the SEC championship. He just making it to that game. I venture to guess a lot of them do.
Some of them get bonuses for total wins. Like if they get 8 wins, they get a bonus. If they get 9, they get a bonus. Like it's ridiculous. It's like, why are we paying for mediocrity? What shouldn't we be trying to win something that matters?
So I love this suggestion by Jeff. I think this is great.
Yep.
He said with 12-team playoffs, they need to up the number of scholarship players. I agree 100% because you're adding not one extra game, not two extra. You're adding potential for 4 extra games in a season. So you got to have more dudes. Like, I mean, that's just the reality of it. I think that's a fantastic suggestion. I love that suggestion. Rusty said Butch Jones would have lived off those bonuses.
He did. He's one of the
Yeah.
ones I was just referencing. He had all those bonuses in his contract.
Oh, good question, Carl. So Carl said, do the early enrollees get to go to the bowl game? Like, do they get to be on the sidelines? They do in street clothes. They won't be able to dress out and play, but, and I know that's not what you're asking, but yes, they do get to go to the bowl game. Like Nico went to the Orange Bowl last year. Or no, he didn't. He was playing volleyball. Somebody went to the bowl game. What? Who was it?
Yeah.
Somebody went. I can't remember who it was, but one of the early enrollees were there, and they showed them on the sideline during the game. But yes, they do get to go. They just, they can't be dressed out. So, but yeah, they will be there. I agree. It is awesome. It's good for those guys. I mean, they work in practice and they get to go have a little bit of fun, from their hard work. So it's good. Well, we hope everybody has a great, great evening. Hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas. It is a true story, and I give you my word on that. So we hope everybody has a great, great Christmas. Blessings to you and your families. We hope we get to see. Carl said they get to feel like they're part of the team. Absolutely. So we hope we get to see everybody no later than January 3rd. But if we don't see you before the new year, hope everybody has a fantastic new year. Wishing all of you a happy and healthy 2024. And we will see everybody very soon. And you know what? Just because we talk so much about football, I'm going to end with the football outro. So hope everybody has a great, great evening.